This is Ivy Unleashed, a Gold Ivy production. Hi, Maggie. Thank you for being here and welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yes. We are pumped. You are the first guest of 2022, and we are so honored to have your time because you are a woman of many talents. You do so many things. This book is incredible, and so we're going to focus on that today, really diving into your book, a beautifully written book with so many tips, and really has spoken to Brooke, and like it couldn't have been better timing for us to jump into inflammation.
Yeah. 2021 really showed us that the right people come in your path at the right time. And throughout the last 4 years with my health journey, anytime I would go in, all I would say was, my body just feels so inflamed. It feels so inflamed. And then we found Maggie, or you may have found us on TikTok and Instagram and online, and we found your book. And I read it and I was like, where has this been? My story, your story resonates with me so much. And I would love to dive into your story and how you became a functional med practitioner. You started off as a nurse practitioner and changed your way. And you start your book with your story on how you're getting ready to leave for your camping trip for the lake. And all of a sudden you can't speak. You text your mom and you can't text. And so take us back to that moment. What was going on?
Yeah, well, it was kind of chaotic, and just like you, just having so much inflammation in my body. And this was after I had been going to doctor's offices telling them something is wrong. I don't feel like myself. I'm gaining all this weight. I'm so tired, even though I'm sleeping 10 hours a night. Like, I knew something was wrong. And then at this point in particular that you're speaking about, that the book opens up with, I just all of a sudden out of nowhere, I think it just caught up to me, and my body was so inflamed and there was so much chaos going on in all the different systems, my hormones and my gut and my thyroid and all of the things that at this moment, with the stress and with all this stuff, my body ended up actually having a TIA, a mini stroke. So it was just so much, inflammation underlying going on. And yeah, in that moment, like, it was pretty terrifying because I had no idea what was going on. But to be completely honest, it's really sad that I kind of expected it. I was so sick and I had all these symptoms that I was like, oh, this is just like kind of what's next, which is so sad that, when you're struggling, that a lot of the traditional doctors just leave you kind of to fend to yourself until things get so bad that like the next thing happens, instead of actually stopping your illness in its path.
Mm-hmm. That's something I worry about with Brooke a lot, because as her support system, I see her going to these doctors, and then when she's super struggling, we're talking, I could just cry about it. She'll say like, I'm afraid I'm not going to go in when I actually need to go in, and I'm going to die from this because no one's listening to me. I'm wasting money. And so I'm curious your advice to her in these moments where she is so tired of not being heard that she doesn't go in. Like, what is the answer? Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, that is so frustrating. And I'll tell you, like, everybody has their different journey. And I look back and I say, I'm glad it happened, right? Because it led me to this point in my life where I'm writing about this and I'm promoting this and I'm helping people. But like, in that moment, it is so hard. And I remember bawling my eyes out time and time again. I remember going to doctor's offices, like new doctors, being like, oh, they're the one, they're going to help me. They're the one to figure this out. And then getting disappointed again. And even with functional medicine providers. So I'm a functional medicine provider. That's what I'm specialized in. But I saw a lot of functional medicine practitioners when I was going through my health journey, and they were awful. So even with functional medicine, integrated medicine, holistic health, whatever it is, it's not so much about the word that they're specialized in. It's really about the human behind the degrees, the human that you're actually seeing. Like, do they care about you? What's the access that you're going to get? Are you another number, or is this actually a personalized plan? And then not being afraid to step away. So that's kind of like what finally healed my body, is essentially I was like, I'm done. I am done with these doctors. I am not going back. No, I'm not going to schedule a follow-up in 4 months from now. What's that going to do? I'm struggling right now. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like when they would always say to schedule your follow-ups for 4 months down the road. I'm like, what? So I would say if you're in that situation right now, your doctors aren't listening to you. You feel like I'm not even going to go in because they're just going to tell me what I already know, or to just take this pill, or to just like follow up in 4 months, then don't. Then don't go in, because typically they've already ruled out the stuff, right? They've done the lab tests, they've done the scans, and they're leaving you with no answers. So find answers on your own, whether that be through a new practitioner. And again, it doesn't really matter what the label of that practitioner is. Functional medicine is what I do. It's what I really, really believe in, but it's about the person. Who is that practitioner? Do you have rapport with them? What, like, do they have 2,000 clients to see and you're just going to get lost? Or do they only work with 10 people at one time, right? Like, what is the connection that you're going to have with that person who's going to help you to actually figure this out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great advice, because just based on my experience, right, it was, I'm just a number. I'm just being dismissed. And the doctors I was seeing, they didn't believe in the whole person approach, right? They didn't believe that the body is one big system and how it talks. And one of the things that I'm struggling with now, as I do find relief and I am healing, is trying to explain it to people who don't understand, who functional medicine, right, is like, huh? Like, what do you mean you're paying all this money to get these tests done? Like, I had my boyfriend cut off a chunk of my hair to get my hair tested, right? And found out that I was super deficient in potassium. And so all I have to do is eat a bunch of potassium for 4 weeks and I'm supposed to feel better. And so I'm trying to explain to the people around me that I'm getting at the root cause, right? At the hormones and how I'm deficient in certain minerals and vitamins that are then going to help these processes like my hormones and metabolism work how they're supposed to. And it's frustrating for me to try to explain it when I'm still like a little brain foggy and trying to understand it myself. So I'd love for you to just kind of, for people who are new to functional medicine, a holistic approach, like what is that?
Yeah, everybody says like functional medicine is getting to the root cause of your illness, but what does that even mean, right? So what it means is if you come in and you have XYZ symptoms, say you're bloated, you're tired all the time, and your hair is falling out. Well, instead of in traditional medicine, they would be like, oh, here, this is this hair growth pill to help your hair grow better. Oh, you're bloated. Here's this pill that helps with bloating and can decrease your bloating. And you're tired. Here, take this pill that's going to help you with your energy, or take this pill that will help you fall asleep better at night. But that helps literally 0%. First of all, usually those medications don't even help the symptom, or maybe they cause side effects in and of themselves, like new side effects that you didn't even have before. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't answer why are you bloated? Or why are you tired? Or why is your hair falling out? And if you don't know those answers, you don't know how to heal. So from like what you're saying, getting testing done on your body will tell you exactly what's going on. And when you work with a specialist like myself and our functional medicine practitioners, we take a bird's eye view in your laboratory testing, mix it with your health history, mix it with your symptoms, and see what things are going on that are causing this. Because it could be something so simple as a nutrient deficiency. Or in my case, I had a huge heavy metal toxicity. So like my aluminum levels were sky high. And if we look at the pathways of the body, we know that aluminum is a heavy metal that can really hurt your metabolic pathways. So my energy levels were off, my nutrients were off, my digestive system was off. I wasn't breaking down food. And if you're not breaking down food, you can't absorb and extract those nutrients. And then you're deficient in nutrients. And then if you're deficient in nutrients, then your hormones are going to go out, like get out of whack and get imbalanced. Then you've got this whole cascade of inflammation, right? So it's just like one thing after the other. So in a simple term, like functional medicine, all it is figuring out what's going on in your specific body, because it's different for every single person. Why you're bloated may be completely different than why someone else is bloated. So what is it in your body and your life? And then knowing how to rewire those pathways, or boost your nutrients, or fix the imbalances, or get rid of the parasite, whatever it is for your body, so that your body can start to heal. So I know that's kind of long-winded, but that's really at the core of it, is what's going on in your body, what are the main things to focus on, and then how to personalize the approach so that your body can begin to heal itself.
I love that. And you wrote beautifully in your book a way to understand how many different things can factor into this. You know, it's your lifestyle, it's your environment, it's really thinking about, what am I putting on my body? What am I putting in my body? What naturally happens outside of my home? What's happening inside of my home? And so I just want to thank you for the way you broke it down, because it was so easy to read and funny. And I love how you had stories in there of people like that, you know, their personal experience, because everyone, like you said, is so different with different experiences. And I'm curious about the gut connection to the brain, because it's not something that I feel like physicians talk about. And Brooke and I just had this experience yesterday where we went to the same physician. I recommend my physician to her. She did not have the same experience as me. So I talked to her about my concerns as like a woman in my 30s, and it went great. And then I had mentioned, I sent Brooke here, my business partner, a couple months ago because she's been struggling with her gut health. And the way she talked about it was so dismissive. It was so like, well, some people just need to learn to deal with it or just manage the pain. And it was like the doctor was so perfect for my experience and so wrong for Brooke's experience. And so I think this is kind of fulfilling the gap of, you know, everybody's experience being different, but also I don't understand why the gut isn't talked about more. Like, why in your visits with your physician is it dismissed? You know, is it just because it's so hard to get to the root? Or do you have any thoughts on why we don't talk about that more?
Yeah. So honestly, it's not that hard to get to the root. Like, it really isn't. If you even read the book. So obviously gold standard is work with a practitioner who's going to help you figure this out, because, you know, everybody needs support. Doctors need doctors, coaches need coaches, trainers need trainers. So like, it's helpful to work with somebody. But even if you don't work with somebody and you read this book, like, you can start to figure it out. And it's not as hard as you would think. And I think that the reason that, you know, gut health isn't talked about there, I could go on and on about the different reasons, but one of them is just time. So like, for example, my first visit with clients is 90 minutes. When you're working in a traditional medical setting, like I used to as a nurse practitioner, I cannot even fathom. I got in trouble one time for spending like 15 minutes with somebody because we were expected to get people in and out of the door. But you cannot know everything going on in a person's body and listen to their story and understand their problems on a deep level in a 10, 15-minute visit. And when you're seeing 40 people a day, there's just absolutely no way that you can know enough about that person to get deep enough to get on a level where you're going to make true impact long term. And so when like there's just not enough time to talk about the connection to the gut and the brain and the different things and why are you bloated and let's do this testing. And even like the testing that we run is advanced functional testing. It's different than what you run in traditional settings. And we order both kinds and stuff, but depending on who you see, these labs, it's a whole different career. I went back to school to learn this stuff. So if you were just trained in traditional medicine like I was initially at Vanderbilt, we don't learn this. You don't learn this stuff in that model. So you don't learn the impact of heavy metals and how they, you know, alter the different detoxification pathways. You don't learn how the gut microbiome is connected to brain health and how this and this and this bacteria can cause this and this and this in the body. You don't learn that on that deep level. And so there's just not adequate time. There's not adequate education. And it's more simple just to tell you like, oh, you're bloated. Here's this pill to help with bloating. Because you're just matching up the symptom with the pill that helps. That's the most typical thing that you'll see in that traditional model. And I want to be very clear that I'm not against the traditional model. I think it's very important, very useful. Like you were helped, you got your answers. But for many people like myself, like Brooke, like my clientele, like the people who are reading this book, they're falling through the cracks in that model. They're not getting help. They're getting worse. And they're just waiting until something happens. Like mine was a mini stroke. And I remember literally praying that it would be cancer. Like I genuinely would like hope that they would find cancer so that at least we knew what it was and could start to fix it. So when you're in a model and you're hoping you have cancer, so at least you have an answer, there's a big problem with that. You're not being listened to and you're not being taken seriously when you know something is wrong.
Why do you think there is such a big disconnect between the two models? Is it because the traditional model is for acute care and right, you get injured, it's great, you have this care. Like, why do you think it isn't all just one? Like, this is the way medicine should be? Because when you're explaining functional medicine, right, and maybe it's different because I have that experience, but for me, I'm like, yup, like this is how care should be. Like, it makes sense.
It really should be. And I think that it's going to be a long time until that becomes the norm, if ever. And the reason is that they're two completely different specialties. So when you have somebody come into your office and they just need the thing, or they just want the thing, not everybody wants to dig deep and to fix their problems. Many people, they just want the pill. They don't care about the side effects. They don't care about it because they don't want to change their life. But if you want to change your life, you are not going to get the support, and you like really want transformation and to figure this out and to get off your medications, and you have that motivation, that internal drive, you will not find that in a traditional setting. Because from even like a business perspective, first of all, the training is different. So I had to go back to school to learn this, right? So like we don't even have adequate time in our schooling systems. The curriculums are not set up for this. We don't learn this in our curriculums. So the training, and then also from a time perspective, business-wise, it's obviously more helpful to see 5,000 people in 2 months than to see 10 people in 2 months. You know what I mean?
Right.
So from a business perspective, it's more useful to see thousands of people, get them in the door, send them 5-minute visits, the more the merrier. But it's just not working for many people. So the problem is that if you try to combine both, it just gets so sticky. So I also teach business and marketing. So I see all the things. So some practitioners try to combine both, but then it's like, well, what do you charge? How come traditional medicine is like a $25 copay, and functional medicine, if I talk about my gut health, it's $200. And if I come to see you for a cold and I have a question about my gut health, then like, am I supposed to be billed just for the cold or for also that, it just gets kind of sticky. Mm-hmm. They're I think that they really are two separate situations. The problem is people who need functional medicine are going and relying on traditional docs. And that's where the error is. So I think it's really about knowing, when do you need traditional medicine? For example, like if you have a really bad cold, you got COVID, whatever it is, right? Like, okay, go see a traditional doc, maybe, and also work with your functional doc to boost your immune system, heal your body, yada, yada. But like in that urgent situation, that acute care, you can't breathe, you break your bone, you have a car crash, you're having a baby, maybe then that's when that is useful. But then the functional medicine for the deeper things, like your nagging symptoms, your chronic illnesses, if you want a transformation.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I see that now. And I think there is that disconnect because people don't know about functional medicine, right? The nagging symptoms. And I think your book does a wonderful job of breaking it down and simplifying it, because it is so overwhelming, right? I think about all the different steps I took and approaches and cleanses and all of this stuff. And I'm like, can it just be more simple than this? Like, taking care of yourself shouldn't be this complicated. And then this book fell in our lap. And you break the book into 3 different parts, which I loved. You talk about your inflammation type. You explain the different inflammation types. You explain an anti-inflammatory way of life. Your third one is eat to treat. And so I'd love for you to walk us through, starting with the first section and the different inflammation types, because when I read it, I was like, oh, this is way more than I even knew about inflammation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the whole intent of the book is so that if you don't have access to a functional medicine practitioner, or you don't like your functional medicine practitioner, or you're stuck in the cracks, or, whatever, that you can help yourself. Like, I want the whole world to be able and to be empowered to help themselves through their health complications. So in part 1 of the book, we lay out the most common inflammatory stuff that I've seen in practice, and we break it into 6 different categories, so that you can thoroughly read and see like what identifies most to you. And as you read it, you should start to think like, oh my gosh, yes, this is totally me. And you may think and you may feel that you align with multiple inflammation types. Absolutely normal. Why? The body's connected. If you have problems in one area and it's been going on for years, it's probably dipped into some other systems. You probably have problems in other areas. For example, me, I definitely had hormonal problems. I wasn't having cycles, etc. But I definitely also had thyroid problems. So like sex hormone and thyroid problems. And I was bloated and constipated all the time. So I have gut issues too. So I'm like all over the place, right? But reading the inflammation types will help you to figure out what's the first thing to focus on. And then once you know what your inflammatory type is, part 2 and 3 of the book help to lay it out in a way that you know what to do first, second, and third for your specific body in a very, very easy, achievable, sustainable type of way.
Definitely. And I think too, this is the type of book like that Brooke can read and I can read. I don't have gut health issues. When I read your book, I was like, is this going to apply to me? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I am totally, it's my skin. Things touch me, my skin flares up. I constantly have like these bumps on my arms and I'm like pretty sure it's gluten or dairy. So I just refuse to do anything about it. But I noticed too, my perfumes I'm super sensitive to and things happen with my skin. And so just learning some tips to avoid the heavy metals that are going into my body, switching out your deodorants, switching out your products. And something that I think is super helpful is when you think about all that you can change, it overwhelms people and they shut down. But your book talks through so many little tiny things you can do. A lot of them are free too, like just like breath work or little things you can check on your ingredients labels. Like we don't know what some of these words are and you break them down. And you're like, if it's in there, let's try to swap it out. And you give swapping options. And so I just think that even if you don't suffer with gut health issues, this book is so helpful to not only help you out, but if you have kids and your home, people coming into your home that might have allergies or just thinking about, wow, I didn't realize how much an air filter could help me or a water filtration system could be beneficial. And so I just love how you spelled that out.
And it's like you might as well. So even if because I work with people who are healthy already, right? So not everybody. I work with lots of different people. Some people have chronic autoimmune diseases that are just like totally a mess and just really struggling. And then some people are coming to me to optimize. They just want to have a little more energy or feel a little better. They're kind of irritable or whatever it is, right? Anxious, whatever it is. So, or somebody like you with some skin issues, or they want to clear up their skin. So no matter where you are, I think legitimately every human on the planet needs to implement a few things from part 2 and 3, because I just like, why not? Why not feel the best you can unless you like feeling kind of not great, right? Like, because these things are so simple and a lot of them are free. And once you set them up and get kind of used to this, you'll never go back, because it's so nice just to wake up and know like, oh, this feels so refreshing and good. I just, I'm naturally just living a healthier lifestyle. And I only made a few tweaks that make a big difference. And even if it's just more like, and I also always tell people that if you've never implemented this stuff for at least like 6 months, then you actually have no idea how good you can feel. And I've had a lot of people report to me, my clientele, my functional medicine clientele, and multiple people have said like, oh my gosh, I have no idea that I was even bloated. Like I've literally never identified with people who said they're bloated, but now after just a month with you, I feel so much lighter on my feet and like just like so much better that I now realize I actually was bloated. I just never really realized it. I just thought that was kind of my norm. So same thing like with energy. You might be like, oh my gosh, I thought it was normal to kind of like just feel really fatigued after the workday because I work really hard and I have lots of kids. But now that I followed this stuff, I actually have more energy than I like know what to do with it. Like I feel so much better. But you just didn't know that was possible because you've never tried it. You've never implemented these changes.
Yeah. And going off of that, for people who just don't know, right? A lot of people in those situations, they don't even know what inflammation is. And so as we're talking about it, would you mind just kind of briefly explaining what it is and its effects at kind of just a top overview level?
Yeah. So basically inflammation is good. Like we need inflammation for situations like if you get bit by a bug or if you break a bone. Inflammation is going to help you heal. It's going to send those people to help you heal. Now, the problem is that many people have inflammation going low grade all day, every day, year after year after year. So it piles up. And I call this the total toxic burden. So in the book, you'll read about your total toxic burden and you can take a little quiz and get your number. but eventually your body is going to stop compensating. So think about if you have inflammation coming from your hair products and your makeup and the food you're eating and the drinks and your lifestyle, like if you're stressed all the time or on the go or you live in the city, like all these things, I want you to use all these things. I want you to live in a modern day world, but every little thing adds up. So what we want to do is reduce inflammation in general, wherever you want. I don't care where you want to reduce it. Just figure out where you want to reduce inflammation to lower that total toxic burden so that your body can continue to thrive and compensate for things.
Yes. And something that you touch on that's huge in the book is stress. And so we can talk about your environment, we can talk about the air purifiers and things, but you can get chronically inflamed from the stressors in your life, your mental health, not addressing your mental health. And so that's, Brooke and I talk a lot about health and wellness, and we'll talk about working out, we'll talk about things like that. But in reality, your mental health is everything. If you're not caring for yourself and noticing what is stressing you out, what can you do about it? What can help relieve your stress, which can in turn help with your inflammation? I think it's so important. And you might assume that this book is going to be just about food and your environment, but it's so much more than that too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that even like my own story, I don't know how, I forget if I shared this in the book, but like I did to an extent, but I was working out. I was eating healthy for the most part, like healthier than all my friends, that's for sure. I was eating organic for the most part and stuff like that. I was working out every single day. I was going to yoga class, things like I was doing what you would think to do to be healthy, but I was overstressed, overworking myself. I was working out too much. So that's like a stressor as well, right? Like I was working out too much. And just the anxiety of like decisions going on in my life at that time, that can be so harmful. So a common example would be somebody who just can't make a decision. Like that kind of was me. It can literally break you to pieces. If you are waking up and just stressed and worrying yourself literally sick about a decision you have to make, that can absolutely crash your body. Like mental health is everything. So it's a huge focus in the book. I think that honestly, I used to start with environmental changes in my clientele, and I actually swapped that. I think probably a year into working with functional medicine clients, I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter that they have an air purifier if they are not in the right mental space. So the very first thing that we talk about is actually getting in that right mental space. Number one, being hopeful you can heal. That's like the first thing ever. Like you have to be hopeful that you can heal. So like Brooke, advocating for herself, not giving up even though her doctors have failed her, seeking answers, just knowing that there's a way to heal. And then reducing stress in your life overall. And I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, reduce stress. Everyone tells me, but like how to do it. That's what the book goes into, of like how to actually do this in a realistic way.
Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned that. And I was going to ask about mindset because it's something that until I fully addressed it, like I don't think I would have been able to have the progress I have now. And I started working with a functional practitioner, but I also started working with a transformational coach who had gone through Lyme and has this experience of chronic illness. And without working with her, I don't know where I would be, but it's this idea of constantly being in fight or flight, right? And that's what really resonated with me, and the way you explain stress and how you have to want it. You have to want to change, right? And you have to see that you can change. And at the end of the day, it's all on you, right? I think about drinking and being up late and wanting so bad to be quote unquote 25 and what that came with, and being like, yes, but do I want to feel sick? Like, wouldn't I rather feel full of life? And that mindset shift of, I don't have to do these things. I want to do these things. I want to feel good, and I can feel good if I do these things. And so I'd love to know how your mindset changed from when you first got sick to then doing the work, and kind of walking us through that progression for you specifically.
Yeah. Well, it's totally mindset, right? I would never have healed my body if my mindset wasn't there. First of all, when I was going through my health problems and like leading up to this point, my mindset was not great. Specifically, I was doing too many things. So it's hard. And I talk about this because sometimes like even good stress is bad stress. So I do a lot of stuff on purpose. Like I'm just like a type A high performer. I put a lot on my plate on purpose. It's good stuff. I think like, oh my gosh, I love doing this stuff, but my body thinks you're in overdrive. You're doing too much without recouping. And so even though some of the stress that I was putting on my body was what I thought good stress, like I'm like knocking it out of the park, doing all this stuff, my body was getting hurt because I was not rejuvenating it and recouping. So that's one thing. The second thing that I was stressed out about during this time was mental stress about decisions. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to live in the world. And I had a distant boyfriend at the time who's now my husband, and all this stuff going on. Like I was just like mentally stressed, and I was going through school and it was all this stuff, right? So mentally stressed. And then for me, the third area was stress around food. So I definitely had like nutrition and mindset issues around food, as far as like almost like fearing food that I was told I shouldn't eat. So that's why actually in the Eat to Treat section of the book, as well as we have a course online called Eat to Treat, it's all mindset, because it's not about really what you eat. It's how you eat, when you eat, your mindset around food. And so unlearning some things that I had learned from specifically workout plans was really helpful for me. So when I was doing these workout plans, it wasn't on purpose. It's just I was following their guidelines. And back at that time, the nutrition guidelines were like, like steamed chicken, steamed broccoli, brown rice, tilapia, and oats for breakfast. And that's it. Like it was very restrictive, no diversity, no healthy fats. It was very like no fat, no carb. That's what it was when I was in this stage of my life, when I was in my young 20s. That's just what the thing was. So I was doing that stuff, and it was really, 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 really bad for my body. And it threw me into like a yo-yo dieting cycle, to where I was really restricted during the week, following my plan that went with the workout. And again, it wasn't on purpose. I was just following the plan, I thought that this was good. And I was prideful that I was following the plan, right? But then on weekends, I would just like binge eat whatever, whenever, with all my friends, and go out to parties and all that kind of stuff. So my body was so stressed out. So that's a long kind of story about like what I was exactly going through in that moment. And then when I learned to heal my body, first of all, the mindset that I can heal, because I went through a really frustrating journey. I went through a lot of doctors that let me down. I was trained from a really awesome institute, and I still love Vanderbilt University and my training there, but it was not what helped me. Traditional medicine did not help me whatsoever. And so like I was really let down. So I had to like kind of pick myself back up. And there was a moment in the book that you read about that I just realized that no one cares enough about me as much as me to heal me. It's up to me, period. So I realized that no one's going to help. No one's going to come. No one's going to help. It has to be me. And so that was a big mindset shift that really kind of led me to unlearning some of my viewpoints on food, fueling my body for energy, adding food into my life instead of taking it away. Just that simple mindset shift, and then decreasing stress and realizing, it's kind of when I started to be decisive. Like the things that I worried about, not that big of a deal. Something so simple as like what color to paint your nails. Like who cares? Just pick one. Like why let that stress impact your sympathetic nervous system? Because as silly as it sounds, it does impact you. It's a silly decision, but you just worrying about it and thinking about it and stressing about it actually hurts your body. So just don't. So I started not to care so much. I started just to be decisive, and that really, really helped me as well.
We actually might have somebody on just to talk about that, because it's so true. I mean, you can stress out about anything, and a lot of people are indecisive, and I'm sure struggle with the stress of being able to make a decision.
Mm-hmm. And something that helped me with decision making was coming from a place of feeling. And that leading my decision of how do I want to feel? Do I want to feel hungover? No. All right. Well, there's your decision. Don't drink. Do you want to feel tired? Like, nope, then don't do this. And not having so much shame or guilt around the decisions that I did make, the money that I did spend, and looking at nothing as a waste, right? I did the best that I could with the tools, the help that I was given. Moving forward, what can I do now? And I think you talk beautifully about that in the book too, is like moving forward, here are the things that you can do. Just pick something, right? There's so many things you can do. And so I'm curious for someone who's listening right now and is like, okay, first off, I need to get the book. Second off, like what are a few things I can do right now that will have the biggest impact on my inflammation and my overall health? Like someone comes up to you in a coffee shop, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess so mindset first, knowing you can heal, of course. And then nourishing your body with real food is huge. Really, like if you do, it all goes hand in hand, because if you have mindset on point, but you're eating like crap and you're drinking every single night alcohol and you're eating the stuff that you know is making you feel sick, you're still not going to feel good. It all comes together. So I'd say number one, mindset. Number two, fuel your body with real food. What can you add? What nutrients can you add? And then the third thing that I would say to focus on is still food related, but just your mindset around, I guess, like how you feel with food. So if you know that every time you eat something, you feel like crap, maybe think like, do you really want to feel like crap? Because there are a lot of other options of really yummy, healthy foods that are actually going to make you feel really good. So I think those are some like the core things that are most important. Of course, in the book, we have like a zillion other things to do as well. But I really think it boils down to mindset and nutrition as like the top things that you should focus on immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you as a mom, I have 3 kids too. And I think about how you can get in this perfectionism mindset, right? Of I got to do this perfectly. I shouldn't expose my kids to plastic and then this and that. Like you can go on a tangent, right? And so I'm curious how you are as a mom with like, yes, you can take care of your home base, but how is it going out in the world with your kids or going to other people's homes when they aren't quite as far on the progress as you are?
I think that when I was actually like deep in my healing journey, I was a little bit more, I guess, strict, because I was deep in it and I was like just mad at everything that was toxic, right? So I was a little bit more so, but now that I think I have more flexibility, and also maybe it's just 1 kid versus 3 kids, right? Like you just can't do everything that you maybe wish you had. So in my home, I keep it pretty non-toxic for the most part. We're eating only organic food. We don't do grains, gluten, dairy. So like that's just something we just don't have in the house. When we go out to eat, I kind of let the kids eat whatever they want. When we're at a party or something, I'm not being like, oh no, you can't have that. Here, eat this instead. But I'm kind of flexible in that sense, but at the same time, I do the best I can. So if we are going to a party, I'm always bringing something that I know is nourishing or at least the better option. So even if it's like cookies, like I'll bring cookies to the lake every time that are like the good kind of cookies for my children, like that I would want them to eat because they love them and they have no idea what the difference is between this cookie or this cookie. And so it doesn't matter. So I'm doing things a little bit, but at the same time, if they choose the other cookie, the Oreo or whatever it is, I'm not freaking out about it. I'm not shaming them. I'm not taking it away. So I have a really good flexible kind of viewpoint now overall with parenting with my children, that and they have no idea that our house is non-toxic and that we eat this way. They have no idea. This is just their normal. And then when we go out, I'm trying to guide them in the right directions, but I'm letting them really take charge of what they want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Well, especially it goes along with your mindset. Like you could tamper with their mindset of food. So it's a good way to be flexible and let them build their relationship while like you do have a responsibility to guide them towards what they're exposed to. And I'm also curious where you grocery shop.
We do. Most of our grocery shopping we do is Whole Foods. That's just what we've kind of always done.
I figured. I was like, it's got to be Whole Foods or Trader Joe's.
It's funny. Actually, I'm not a Trader Joe's huge fan, but Whole Foods is like what my jam is. But I shopped. I was the weird kid in college that literally got groceries from Whole Foods and everybody else was going to like whatever, Harris Teeter or like the cafeteria at school and stuff. Like which is just so important to know, like I already was eating organic and I knew about this world and I was eating paleo before I knew what paleo even was. Like, it wasn't even a word. I wish I had coined it, right? Yeah. So like, I was already doing these things and still got sick because I was stressed, because I was binge eating on the weekends, because I was restricting nutrients. Like I wasn't eating any fat. So of course my hormones weren't regulated. So, and I was slathering my body with toxic lotions and makeup every day. So it's important to know that like everybody's health journey does not look the same. And you don't have to be super, super unhealthy in order to have imbalances. Externally, I looked vibrant, healthy, fit, and awesome. Like nothing looked wrong. But internally, my body was slowly but surely building up a total toxic burden that was about to spill over. And then it's just a matter of time.
So there's this part in your book that I love. I mean, we highlighted so many different parts because we're two different people that took away almost every page. This is so much gold in here. But something that I love that you wrote, and Brooke loved too, was your mind is where your emotions are born, and your mind is where you can choose to believe or not believe that your healing process is working. But you need both. You need to be in an elevated state of emotion, and you need to intend that changes are happening in your life. I know you kind of touched on that, but it's so powerful. And I think the way that you spell it out is like your mental health has to come first, you know? And I don't want anybody to not read this book because you think it's going to be a diet, because it's not a diet. It's about a way of prioritizing yourself, starting with your mental health.
Yeah, it is. If you don't believe in yourself, then who else will? And and your body just cannot heal if you're not ready. So just like how Brooke, there was a point in her life where she was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I'm done. She was ready. There was a point in my life where, I didn't care. I didn't care that I had headaches. I didn't care that I was bloated. I didn't care I was constipated. I wasn't ready, but then I got ready. So you really have to be in a mindset, like ready to transform or at least make some tweaks, and it can be small. So a good example is actually one of my younger sisters. She is making very small tweaks. Once a year, she does something in one area. So like last year, I think it was deodorant. That's all she did. All she did was find a healthier deodorant. And then I think the year before that, she did a candle or something. Like she's a very bite-sized things, but year after year. And as you start to shop these different products, then you're getting interested, like, oh, I wonder what eyeshadow is non-toxic, right? So it just kind of starts to develop, but you have to be ready. It has to come from you, no one else. But the best doctors in the world, me, I cannot help you. Even if you pick up this book, I can't make you read it, and I can't make you want it. It has to come in from deep inside of yourself.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yes.
I love that. So you not only motivational speaker here, you're a mom of 3, an author, you have your own business,
YouTube channel. I watched a bunch of tips. I was like taking this business tip and I'm like, Brooke, Maggie has this tip where she themes her days, where she has like admin day. And I'm like, that's such a good idea. I would love to do that. So YouTube, TikTok, yes. Instagram.
Busy, full of gold. But I'm wondering how you decided to start your own business and currently what you're focusing on within your business right now.
Well, I guess the health crash was a blessing in disguise because it made me realize I'm not really aligned with traditional medicine for me. Again, I'm not against traditional med. There's a time and place. Thank goodness people love working in that model. But it's not for me because I learned all this other stuff. And I was just like, there's no way I can go back to doing what I'm doing right now. Even though I had a great job, I was really good at my job. I was getting promotions already. Like I could not work in that model anymore. At the same time of healing my body and realizing this, I had gotten married. I had gone back to school to learn functional medicine, to go through the program, to specialize in this. And I got pregnant with our first child. And so I was starting to think about I don't even want to go to work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I was working night shifts and weekends here and there. So we had to rotate. So I was waking up at 3 a.m., 5 a.m., different times, going to the office, helping somebody, coming home. I'm pregnant. I'm trying to heal my body. I'm like, I'm done with this schedule. I don't want this anymore. And I found myself in a rut of just waking up, going to work, coming home, making dinner, cleaning dinner, going to bed. And I was like, this is not aligned with the lifestyle that I want for myself. And so when I combined those two things, I didn't want that traditional medicine job. I didn't want that traditional 9 to 5 job. I realized that what I really wanted is to impact people outside of my community, around the world, help them with health and wellness, and with the freedom and flexibility to work when I want, how I want, wherever I want, so that I wasn't confined to one space or anything. So that's when I decided to open my online functional medicine consulting company. And this was way back when. So this is before this was even a thing. I didn't know one person doing this. I did not have an Instagram. I did not have a Facebook. I had nothing. And I just kind of dove into this space. And it's been so amazing. I have been so honored to work with so many amazing clientele from all around the world. And now what's next for me in this business is how can I impact more people? I just told you that I can't take on 2,000 clients and help 2,000 people one-on-one. There's absolutely no way that I can do this in this model. But what I can do is I can go speak at events. I can come on podcasts like this and help people who are listening to your show. I can write books that are literally like everything that I have in my brain put into a book that's easy to understand, that somebody can pick up for $20 at Barnes & Noble and get helped. And then the other way that I have realized I can impact more people is through training practitioners and health coaches. So we've now had we've had so many people, hundreds and hundreds of practitioners, health coaches, even people who are just into health and wellness like you, Brooke. Well, I don't know if you have any kind of certifications or degrees in the wellness space, but we have people go through our business and marketing program, build amazing companies helping to influence and help people around the world with their health and wellness. And they're not a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a health coach. They just have a health story. They learned something and now they're sharing it and impacting so many people. So by training all these other people and then them opening their own health and wellness businesses, even if it's not one-on-one, even if it's like influence type of stuff or, speaking or podcasting, that's how I'm able to help more people with their health outside of Just Be. So that's kind of where we're focused right now.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
And you've impacted us so much. So I know everyone listening is going to be impacted, but I just speak for both of us that we're so grateful for you and that our paths crossed and it's been so amazing. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. I'm so excited and truly believe that everybody comes into your life for a reason. So I'm really excited to have chatted with you, come on your show. Thank you for letting me do this and for really diving into the book and all of the stuff that we talk about.
Yes. And speaking of, everyone, please check out Maggie's website. I was looking at all your social handles and then I dug into your website last week and I was like, oh my gosh, it is so beautiful. Your testimonials, your blog is incredible. And so where can everybody find you if they were to look you up?
Yeah, so my website is my name. Everything's my name. So maggieberghoff.com. And then on Instagram and TikTok are my main two areas. And it's Maggie_Berghoff. So there's just a little underscore there, but I'm verified on those platforms. So you can easily find me as I pop up and connect with me there.
Perfect. And we'll plug all that in our show notes, in our blog, along with the book, Eat Right for Your Inflammation Type, the 3-step program to strengthen immunity, heal chronic pain, and boost your energy. And Maggie, we end every show with our 3 gold stars. So these are our 3 takeaways that you have for our audience. Would you like to share them?
Sure. So I say takeaway 1, if you are struggling with your health, no matter what anyone has told you, no matter how many things you tried, even if you feel like you've tried literally everything and nothing has worked, know that something may. There's still hope for you. And just 6 months down the road from now, you could be a totally different human than you are right now. So it's up to you. That's the first takeaway. The second takeaway I would definitely say is mindset around food and realizing that it's not that big of a deal. Just like I explained about how I do with my children, like they're eating pretty healthy. I'm boosting their body. If they go out and order a grilled cheese, they're eating a grilled cheese. Unless you have like an immediate healing chronic issue, like I did. I didn't do that stuff when I was healing. I was not ordering the other stuff, right? Because it didn't make me feel good. But know that this is temporary. And if right now you need to make some dietary changes so that you can feel really good, like that is so worth it. You have this one life to experience. Don't go through it feeling like crap. And so prioritizing your nutrition, but in a way that feels really, really good and aligned with you. And then I say the third gold star would simply be to find fulfillment in your life and decrease stress. As you find fulfillment in your life, as you learn to love yourself, that stress level that we talk about is going to start to decline. And just realizing that, there's more to life than freaking out about every little decision, or the pushing yourself and grinding yourself at the gym every day so you can look flatter, or whatever it is, whatever story you're telling yourself right now. Just give yourself a little grace, be a little easier on yourself, and just try to enjoy your life a little bit more. And as you do that, your stress will decrease, and you'll find all of a sudden you're reaching your health goals without even really trying so hard, because it all just starts to fall in place.
The next segment is Unleashing Ivy. So these are 3 surprise questions that Maggie doesn't know about.
All right, number 1. What is your favorite non-toxic beauty brand right now?
I like Beauty Counter and Ilia, the ILIA brand. Those are the 2 beauty products that I use right now.
Nice.
Okay, and I'm so curious because you are an expert in so many fields and have such a great mindset. Who do you go to for advice?
Oh man, health or business? I guess for health, since that's what this podcast was about, I love the Institute for Functional Medicine is where I went to training, and they have amazing tips and resources and statistics and quotes, even on their Instagram, that would help you too, like everybody, not just practitioners. So that's a great resource for information on health and wellness.
And what about personally? Like, do you have a coach or mentor that you use?
Right now, I'm working with a coach, yes, for our business scale. So specifically building out our team as we grow. We're growing very quickly on both sides of the company, and we have hired just a significant amount of people this year. So we're working with a coach to help us to lead that team, to grow as it's really leadership, to grow as a leader, to hire the right key players to grow and scale our mission. And so that's what we're working on right now.
I love that.
That's
I think it's
so exciting.
Yeah, it's important to know that someone like you that has written a book and has this, booming business also has a coach, and that, it's okay to want some extra input from someone. It can help anybody level up.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, it's the best thing in the world. I always tell, I business mentor, and I'm like, it's the best thing in the world. Why would you not hire someone who's where you want to be to just get you where you want to there? It's so much easier. And even just like the clarity thing on decision making, instead of thinking, and now we're talking about business, but instead of thinking about like, oh, what should I do? What should I do next in the company? How should I grow? Who should I hire? What should I pay them? Instead of thinking about that and letting that stress you out and waste your time and energy, you can just text your mentor and be like, hey, what do you usually pay for this position? Oh, this. Okay, cool. Like it's so much easier, just the little questions.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last question. What's one thing you wish you would have known sooner?
To relax on yourself. Honestly, I wish I could go back and just relive all of my years, because I did have a really happy childhood and growing up, and it was great, but I wish that I would just have chilled out a little bit more and just enjoyed life more and not worried so much. Like, I think back sometimes in moments in my young 20s or even my teens that I would not do stuff because I was afraid I was gonna miss a party or miss out on something, or I missed a trip with my family because I was wanted to go to my friend's pool party, and I'm like, why did I do that? Why didn't I go on this trip? So I wish that I would tell my younger self just to enjoy life more and to just relax. It's not about, to me growing up, it was oh, I want to be thin, I want to be fit, I want to get all straight A's and all this kind of stuff. It's at some point you need to also live your life.
Beautiful. Awesome. And the last thing we do is send our audience off with a piece of gold. Would you like to share your piece of gold?
Ooh, so since our topic was all about health and wellness, I would say something I said earlier is that no one cares more than you about you.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.